Okay, so we return in this video in order to present on the results that we obtained through our survey that we created on Google Form titled Feedback on Sleep Quality, where we ask our respondents the quality of their sleep. But before we start though, we will all be personally introducing ourselves, starting with me. So my name is Muhammad Adafiq bin Muhammad Azwan with metric number of 10DTK 19F1019.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Syamil Iman bin Zazali. My metric number is 10DTK 19F 1016 from DTK 4A. Okay, I continue for my friend.
Hi everyone, my name is Sama Aziz bin Khalid. I'm from class DTK 4A. My metric number is 10 DTK 1L 1015.
And my name is Aiman Hakim bin Abdul Rauf. My number metric is 10 DTK 19F1023 from class DTK 4A.
Okay, so with the introductions out of the way, now we can start with our presentation on the results we obtained. So we start off with the demographic information. As you can see, there were three items that we asked of our respondents. They were their gender, their semester, and also their department. So now we start. Now start talking about the first item, which is their gender. So there were significantly more male students who answered our survey than female students at 32 students. And the male students made up 64% of the chart, while the female students made up 36% of the chart. The female students totaled up to 18 students. Now we move on to the second item, which is their semester. So if you look at the table, the two most obvious things that you can see are the second and the fifth semester students because of how low their amount is, as the second semester only had one student who answered and the fifth only had two. The both of them, if you total up their percentage, they will only make up 6% of the chart. The remaining percentage are the third and fourth semester students, with third semester students at 12 students and fourth semester at 35 students. Specifically, the third semester students made up 24%, while the fourth semester students made up 74%, while there were no first semester students who answered our survey at all. Now we move on to the last item, which is their department. So there were the same amount of students from the electrical engineering and mechanical engineering department, both at 20, and if you add them up, it will be 40. And of course, they will both also share the same percentage with both at 40%. And the other remaining percentage are the commerce and information technology and communication department students, both at 20%, at both if you total them up at 20%, and there were only 10 students from both of the department. So that's it that I can talk about the demographic information table. Now we will move on to the first question that we asked our respondents, which will be presented by Muhammad Syami Aiman.
Okay, continue the first graph. This graph show the perfect sleeping time among students. Majority of the respondent who sleep at 1 a.m. With 27 students. Meanwhile, the second highest vote was 12 midnight with 30 students. The number of the students who slept at 11 a.m. 11 p.m. Was slightly highest than student who slept at the 10 p.m. Even so, the number of the students who slept at the 10 p.m. With Magdalene highest than student who slept at 9 p.m. only with one student. To sign up, many polytechnic student prefer to sleep after 1 a.m. As by the huge difference between after 1 a.m. bar and another bar. Okay, I continue for the second graph. And this chart display the time take of the student who fall asleep once on the bed. For then, it can be declared of the biggest segment of the chart, which make up the 30% of the chart, was only 15 to the 30 minutes. Honestly, there was almost exactly the same amount of the student who took 31 to 45 minutes to fall asleep as the aforementioned. On the flip side, the smaller statement, only 8%. The student took 56 to the 60 minutes to fall asleep. More of the 15 of the student who less than 15 minutes to fall asleep, as significantly close to the amount of the student who took more than an hours. In conclusion, the time to take of the student to fall asleep very greatly, as supported by the statement percent being close to the each other.
So this is a first graph for my part. This graph demonstrate of the sleep hours student in the 24 hours. Based on the graph, most of the student got the 7 hours of sleep. There were 4 students who sleep for less than 4 hours, putting in the minority. Close that among where are the students who get the 8 hours for the sleep is amounting to 6 students. Apart, apart of that, nine student, uh, nine student, nine students sleep for 5 hours. Thus, where there were still definitely less than 13 students who sleep for 6 hours. All in all, there are not many students who sleep for the ideal amount of the time, which is 8 hours. For the second graph, this chart indicate the activity student doing before going off sleep. There are 2 statements who made the majority of the chart. To share the same percentage is 32%, which is the almost of the chart. They comprise of the student who play game on their phone and watch the social media before going to sleep. The third highest statement is the consisted of half amount the two two highest segment at 60% and made up of students who read a book or ebook before sleep. The last two statements in the minority both share the same percentage at the 10% where 10% where the student who watch TV and watch a show on the phone. Overall, this can be said the student mainly play game or browse social media. Both activity recommend a phone or a laptop before going off sleep. And for the last of my part on this graph, covers how often student be affected by poor sleep. A greater number of students claim to be affected by it sometime, which the 29 students are voting for it. Different to that, there are very drastically less the student who pick all the all opinion, with the 11 student claiming to be really affected by Crossley. Another 6 student stood another 6 student claiming to be affected very often, and 4 student claiming to be always affected by poor sleep. All the train course right. This graph proves that everyone will be affected by poor sleep at the sleep poor sleep at the some point in their life.
Alright, so I'm back again to talk about the sixth question, which is how often do you feel sleepy in the daytime when in class? So the pie chart expresses how often students feel sleepy in the daytime when in class. Almost the half of the chart is made up of students who stated that they feel sleepy sometimes. This is followed by students who stated that they rarely feel sleepy, which almost made up a quarter of the chart. There were almost the same amount of students, but fractionally lower at 22%, who stated that they feel sleepy very often. And the two smallest segments at 4% respectively were students who stated that they always and never ever feel sleepy in the daytime while in class. So by and large, um, students are mostly indecisive in deciding whether they rarely or oftenly feel sleepy in the daytime while in class. So they would prefer to pick sometimes instead. Alright, now off we go to question 7. The question asked was, how satisfied are you with your life now? The bar graph shows student satisfaction level with their lives now. A huge number of students asserted that they are content with their life now, totaling up to 24 students. The number of students who asserted that they are satisfied with life now was 13, significantly less than the former who stated that they were content. There were the same amount of students who asserted they are very dissatisfied and very satisfied, at 4 each, both marginally lower than the 5 students who asserted they were dissatisfied with life now. So, on the whole, many students are content with their life now, with few who are very dissatisfied and others who are very satisfied. So, that's it for my part. I will pass the presentation over to Ayman Hakim to do his part. So, that's all from me. Thank you.
The chart displays student stress level. Almost half of total respondents voted that they are sometimes stressed out. At the same time, almost a quarter of the total respondents voted that they are rarely stressed out. Aside from that, 60% of the total respondents voted they are very often stressed out. As for the rest, which are made up minority, they voted for the always and never option, with 10 voted who for with 10 voted who for voted for always and 8% who voted for never. In sum, many students do feel stressed out. However, not too often as can be seen from the chart. This graph demonstrates how often students exercise in a week. The most distinct bar is the everyday bar, with only 3 students who voted for it. Students who exercise once a week were marginally higher than students who exercise 2 to 3 times a week. There are 11 students who don't exercise at all, while there are no students who don't exercise 5 to 6 times a week. To conclude, there are more students who exercise in a week than those who doesn't. And the last chart. This chart indicates the students' opinion on their sleep quality. A lot of students believe that their sleep quality is average, and slightly more than a quarter of a total respondent believe that they have good good sleep quality. 30% more than respondents who thought they have poor sleep quality, equaling 40%. Aside from that, 12% of total respondents thought they have very good sleep quality. The other remaining respondent, who made up 6% of the charge, believe that they are very poor sleep quality. In closing, many students consider that they have average sleep quality, with more students thinking that they have good sleep quality than poor. And that's it. Thank you for watching our presentation.